Also, I don't love the handshake on the Vi Nocturne. Well, if both are left up, there's a chance that that happens, but then you would be giving away something like Nocturne Oriana to JDG, which has been pretty successful for them so far. That said, Jace being unbanned was a big surprise for me, so curious what Hoya has up his sleeve to deal with this pick that has been really good just as a champion so far in the LPL. And uniquely with JDG, Scout is an incredible Jace player, so this is flexible for them.
Yeah, I was about to say, we don't know whether this Jace is securely in one role or the other. So ThunderTalk, if they were to try and, slam down an answer into the Jace, that could be detrimental to them, as this Jace could be flexed into the other solo lane. Now, ThunderTalk, they're going with answers or champion picks that don't necessarily have to answer the Jace. So by securing 1xScent at Misfortune, which is kind of the other champion that Peyz might have looked at in terms of like what's available in terms of stable lane 80 carries that give you priority and a lot of early power. The Zyra pick,
I like the Zyra. It's been proven to be really strong in the jungle and does dissuade some of the dive that might come out from ThunderTalk. Also, MF. Damage it's there. It's just kind of limited for me at times. Outside of the bullet time, of course, which is ridiculous damage, but can help set that up. So already some synergy showing for ThunderTalk. But still, something like a Vi, open for Shun, and we could easily see JDG try and round out their top side. If you go with something like Diego, you got to find some setup. So going to be the Rise. I think the idea with Rise is that you're tanky enough to deal with whatever ThunderTalk's going to throw at you with the next few picks. And it might force a choice here for ThunderTalk. Either take a support, one of the engaged supports left that does synergize well with MF. We see most of them off the board looking at Leona, Rel, also a Braum. So I think that, they had a choice. Either you drop support and face two bans coming out from JDG, or, you drop mid, the choice they are making, and open up the fact for JDG to take away two of the matchups that Scout may not want to face in the mid lane. But I like where JDG's at, and in draft fight, their comp already has a little bit of a better identity. Would love to see ThunderTalk take away. I think the Ziggs is a decent ban, but I think taking away something like a Blitzcrank might be warranted here. I guess the hook champs can kind of struggle into Zyra plants, but I feel like you need a go button support if you are missing.
You do, and I think the thing JDG is trying to avoid is full commit on diving into Zyra, which is like the Rise can like walk up and look for a flash and then use the phase rush movement speed to disengage if he gets too far. My thoughts on where JDG were going were trying to just outrange, because the Zyra being locked in early, yeah, you have strong disengage and you have a strong zone control, but if you get outranged by, if this was like a higher damage Jace build, and then, thankfully they banned the Ziggs so that Peyz can't, long range interact with ThunderTalk without response, then it would have been a little bit more difficult to try and play as the Zyra if the team of JDG never really walks into you. But now, I think the question comes down to ThunderTalk. What do they clean up the rest of this composition with? Because you have committal from Nautilus Engage, but you still have the option of saying, do you want to play full kite with the Zyra, or do you want to actually have goat buttons that dive alongside the Nautilus?
I'm curious what SeTab goes for, because of course you have the choice about whether or not you're taking engaged support there. It does narrow up the mid pool a lot. Hoya's going to have to be on tank duty. Will be the Hui into the Rise, so can match the wave clear, but you take some time in terms of getting online. Zyra Rakan's up. Rakan would be able to piggyback off of a Viego. You don't have the best matchup, though, in the Nautilus, who can cancel your Grand Entrance. And, oh boy, we're going to see a Senna picked up. Senna Ornn? We're going to have fasting Senna? This is interesting. I kind of like this, because it actually takes away a big pick for TT and Hoya later on. If this ends up being the play for missing, you can kind of stat check and sustain throughout this lane. So I think you have enough damage with the Rise Jace to afford to do this. Also, the Senna buffing everyone up in the front line. That's big. You're going up against a squishy team, so health bar advantage is going to be massively in favor of JDG no matter what Hoya picks.
And suddenly the Yasuo
don't pick
ban
this.
makes even more sense now. No wind wall to deny a non-committal engage from Ornn. And I think that's the best thing about this pick, is that JDG have a go button that they don't have to commit to. You throw out the Call of the Forge God,
It's gotta be
and if
Sion.
it lands a knockup and it's good, then you can start looking for the resets with this Viego.
Yeah.
Now, ThunderTalk, their answer is, well, okay, they've got a meatball in this Ornn. We need to get a meatball for ourselves. And Hoya Sion, pretty darn good, you know. The Hoya Ornn is definitely the most legendary that he's been able to perform on, but I have full faith that, especially the form that Hoya has been performing in recently, he's going to do his job here.
And they can't even go for something like Malphite or Maokai top here because it would be triple magic damage. I feel like they were just forced to take the Sion. I really like, we have not seen Fasting Senna pretty much at all. I really like it in this draft. I think it's actually a great adaptation from JDG in this format. I was very taken aback by that, but I think it's the right game for it.
Yeah.
And of course, this pick is pretty heavily nerfed, but man, the ability to buff up the Jace, the Ryze, the Viego, how tanky these champions are already going to be into a pretty squishy comp for TT outside of the Sion, I think is really, really in favor of JDG. So I like this curveball a lot in draft. Was not expecting it, but think it's warranted this game and favor JDG going into this one as well. I like their last draft too. I feel like they really mis-executed it. This one should be much easier to execute. So we'll see if JDG can pull it off.
Famous last words from Mr. Samuelson. We'll see if they can actually live out the composition fantasy and execute to what it needs to be. But I want to pose a question to you, Matt, because looking at JDG's composition, a lot of the damage here can be up to disparity based on how tanky they build, right? Obviously, the Jace tank build has been, you know, the craze ever since Flandra debuted during the Demacia Cup, and now every single Jace we've run into is doing less damage and yet still just as unbearable to deal with once he starts diving our backline. ThunderTalk, for the most part, do have a fairly squishy composition. My question is, if you can't actually reach the backline, does anyone on JDG actually have the damage to deal with the Sion?
Oh, yeah, they have plenty. I mean, you weren't worried about the damage from the Sion, right? You're worried about damage, obviously, from everywhere else, but MF, lower damage carry, Hui, and Zyra will take time to get their damage off. I just don't think that you can break it. Like, how tanky you get as Ornn, Ryze, Jace, I don't see a way where that happens, and then if you just keep on living in the fight, you're able to find resets eventually as Viego. That's got to be the game plan for JDG, so look for them to absorb the Hui and Zyra ults that we see, and I think the level 6 for TT is going to be really important because I don't favor them as time goes on in this one, which is why I like to see them being very proactive early. You can see with Sion, you can pull off a lot of unique strats. Going to look to be a brute force split map here from TT, and we'll see if Hoya actually TPs to the top side at all, or if it's going to be an assist Beichuan on the clear angle and the dive bot.
I like how Hoya is helping do a double jungle with Beichuan. Honestly, this feels like a blast from the past. I can't remember which season it was where we had the top laner helping the jungler in the first couple of clears, but with Sion doing
They're
this,
going to dive.
this is a call to former Sion compositions and strats where the Sion would just completely sack the open lane and then look for the dive using the power of the passive. And Peyz already recognizes, hey, wait a minute, I've seen this story before. They have a Sion, we're all alone. There's no Sion on the top side of the map. I wonder where he could be. And Missing did not get the memo, and he's under the turret all by himself, and I don't think Peyz can really do much to bail out his support. That's first blood for ThunderTalk.
Notice how Hoya, he's not even TPing to the top side, which I'm a little bit surprised about. I feel like after that play, he could have went, they could have blocked the potential, or Peyz skilled Q, so he can't be rooted, but they're just hard committed to splitting the map. And being bot lane, they take these plates faster. So ThunderTalk trying to speed up this game a little bit. Yes, Sion's getting starved out, but Missing's not getting anything bot, so the trade's okay so far for ThunderTalk, and this might continue. If they aren't able to approach the wave and actually get experience, this is a win for ThunderTalk for me.
Yeah, because remember, this is an Ornn that has to rely on support experience shared, so it scales a little bit slower. Oh man, the redive setup. Beichuan clears out the entire bot side jungle. Only took one camp in the Gromp, and they're back for a 4-man dive again. Peyz and Missing are like, hey guys, can we get some help here, please? Missing Still has a flash. Maybe he can outplay it. Goes for the Searing Charge. Gets the knockup down. Beichuan is tanking the tower, but it ramps up, but not fast enough for ThunderTalk to be threatened. Now, Shun is here. He's level 3.
Spotted.
Maybe he can answer with Peyz, but there's not much CC set up for them to reliably get a reset city going. I think Shun is just going to go for the crab instead.
When is Hoya going to go top? I mean, we're down 2.5 levels now. I don't agree with, like, the overstay as much as we did. Again, I think that the onus is on TT to make plays early because I don't like what this game looks like for them as they go on. But how does Sion get to exist into the Jace now? I think that the stay for the second dive was an overstay. I guess the answer is we just swap it. So Sion's going to eat it. They're going to get their bot lane to go top. And we'll see how much Hoya can soak here. But he's going to be miles behind the Jace. I feel like this is the only option that TT has. And I don't think this is a necessarily super advantageous setup for them. As Shun, well played by him to actually get the Raptors in the top side away from Beichuan. Because now it means that he's going to get into his bot side that's respawning. And Beichuan's actually going to be pretty far behind. He has nothing to do here.
Yeah,
yeah, nice contest.
This double dive on the bot side has repercussions for ThunderTalk, not just in top lane, but also jungle tempo as well. Because Zyra, you want to be accelerated. You want to take advantage of the fact that you clear camp so fast that you can actually outpace the Viego, which is, like, Viego doesn't have a trash clear speed, but definitely nowhere near as fast as Zyra's, right? But the fact that Shun is actually up on camps, there's a window where JDG can try and skirmish ThunderTalk at the right time, just an advantage of levels if they play around Olive.
And again, Hoya's just, he's down after that wave, a full level and change. So you are a Sion, like you are, signing up to be a big meatball, and it's not like they didn't get advantages with the MF not being top. This should lead to first grubs going over to ThunderTalk. If all goes to plan, it should be first 3, but I still just don't love the game state they created for themselves. I think the initial dive with Hoya was cool, but the no TP after that was the mistake for me. You just starved out your Sion too much.
But just imagine if ThunderTalk actually beat JDG with this state. The mental damage that is inflicted. That's the crazy gamble. And for that, I'm on board.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how MF gets through this comp either. Like, you're going BT. I think it has to be second or third item LDR. But of course, the MF Bloodthirster Rush and the ability to brute force smack people in the face is nice. But at the moment, grubs have spawned. Scout's going to get poked out. Realm Warp casted. SeTab, good flash.
Yeah,
that should be enough. Should be enough to just secure the grubs. Scout is going for the Doinby tech where it's Ghost, which I really like actually. I think that with the Realm Warp you can still play size. You don't necessarily need the TP, and having that combat summoner is really good on Rise.
Oh yeah, I mean it's good in so many situations. It's such a versatile summoner spell. But because they forced out missing, and despite Scout being able to get SeTab out of the fight and forcing him to flash, they were chunked out, and they didn't have necessarily the most advantageous posture over the grubs, so it is the first rotation going over to ThunderTalk. There's still a dragon to secure, and with Allah shoving into Hoya, Shun could look for it as long as Scout comes back to lane and gives a prio, but they're actually just going to try to force the dive on Hoya. There's not another minion wave coming for anytime soon, so Shun is just going to go for the base, assuming that Hoya will take the recall as well.
Actually, not bad. The fact that he got out is nice there. As, of course, 3 grubs did go over to ThunderTalk. I think that's really essential for the script that they need to have in this game if they want to win. But as time goes on, again, the tankiness of the Jace and the Rise throughout this game, with the Senna, Ornn behind it, the MF can't get through that. And I really think that's what inspired the draft and inspired the Senna Ornn here from JDG. It's just, we've had a couple games where there have been comps with really different power curves, right? Like game 1, JDG had the early game comp. Game 2, it was, well, JDG, their comp ended up kind of falling off as that game went on. Just how far behind
they were looking for like a mid-game wombo, right?
Yeah.
You know, one item spikes and then just press all your circle buttons.
Yeah, this time around, this is the first game that we've seen where TT is really the one on the timer. So I think onus on them, again, to make plays, and we'll see how they respond to it. As at the moment, I don't think they're far ahead enough to warrant this. I really think the magic number for TT, they need like 2 or 3K gold here by the 15-minute mark.
Yeah. And keep in mind that, yes, 1xN has a 1,000 and a couple hundred gold over Peyz. This is a fasting Senna, right? Like, it's not the Senna that's farming against the Ornn, and so it's kind of hard to really calculate how effectively far ahead ThunderTalk is with the advantage they tried to play for, with all the plates going into ThunderTalk's pockets, since it was split up between multiple members instead of just one person ideally. But at least they have map control for now, and they're taking advantage of it as much as possible, securing the first 2 neutral objectives of the game. The question is, how long can they actually maintain this advantage, as now they're gonna maybe play for... It doesn't look like another dive. Missing is not level 6, so he doesn't have Call of the Forge God available, but they're just gonna try to burst this turret down, and there's not much Missing can do about it. Peyz is slowly walking up to the turret, but they're gonna try to play for it as much as possible. It's still survival for now.
Good on Feather to get out. He had to throw the hook before the Q. Sometimes that Ornn Q, it spawns terrain, can mess with you a little bit. Speaking of mess with you, Missing.
Oh, Missing's in trouble, but Scout has the realm over, and he brought Shun to the party. The Call of the Force God doesn't get a chance to go off. Bullet time forces Shun using the Heartbreaker to reposition, but here comes SeTab. Oh, he missed!
Beautiful.
Spiraling Despair, but it doesn't matter. Wait. Oh, it was a fear that he threw out. Scout got tagged by the Spiraling Despair. My mistake, but ThunderTalk managed to go up 2-0 in that exchange.
I love how Feather played that fight on the Nautilus, and he just dinged 6, so this play is going to continue, but a TP coming in. They're really trying to defend this first brick. They're going to do so successfully, but so much burned from JDG just to save this. It's not like they're going to get first brick.
Take the turret?
And they miss out on local gold. It would still be a feat. Keep your eyes, though, on Feather. I really like how Feather played this. First off, yes, he gets rooted, but ends up finding the dredge line. That puts Missing in a really bad spot. I don't know why he E'd that way. There's no reason to go that way. And then from here, Feather playing back, waiting for his cooldowns. He's going to threaten the auto attack on the Shun. Shun flashes out. He ends up getting the auto, stepping back and finding the dredge line. That's really, really well played by Feather on the Nautilus. Playing around his cooldowns and still threatening the members of JDG. Again, important that ThunderTalk plays a clean early game. They need it in the composition that JDG has. Feather has been a standout at support for me, and someone where, if you ask me going into the day, he's been outperforming Missing heavily in the games we've seen so far. Just with how both players have been playing, I think Feather's been a big standout, and good to see him on the Nautilus. He has the more standard support pick. It needs to put the pressure down early before he can't hook into Ornn anymore, where Ornn gets too tanky. Feather making really good use of that early in TT. They're the ones blitzing the map with the early game comp. That's 6 grubs picked up. That's going to make the next few minutes of play really tough for JDG to survive in.
Yeah, I think the only saving grace for JDG is that ThunderTalk doesn't have the most apt turret split pushers in this composition, right? I mean, like, it definitely seems like 1xN is going to be the biggest benefactor of being able to walk up to these turrets with
this
support
is the first brick race,
jungle.
by the way.
Oh my goodness. I mean, they shouldn't. Wait a minute, wait. The rest of JDG are collapsing, trying to prevent first turret from falling and giving more time to Scout to secure first turret for themselves.
Well, yeah, I'm actually a little bit surprised. I guess you have play here. I thought we might see an ult from 1xN just to delete it. Instead, Beichuan getting flashed on.
Flash from Shun, and wow, Beichuan didn't have flash from the prior fight, and JDG just taking advantage of that moment. Hoya has teleported to the fight. Call of the Forge God finds a 2-man knockup. Scout doesn't have TP, remember, so JDG are down to Rise for this fight, but they're trying to take the skirmish and play off of Shun resets with the Viego. But ThunderTalk do manage to secure first brick for themselves. It's another feat picked up, and I think that's all feats secured for themselves.
Yeah, and power boots secured moving forward here for ThunderTalk. I do like the defense there from JDG. Again, a lot invested to try and get that first brick raise. JDG at least was able to funnel Scout, who won't be able to be messed with inside lane as this game goes on. Again, the 1-3-1 for JDG, it is good. And they scale nicely. They were really able to delay ThunderTalk, just keeping them up there for a few waves. They got a lot on the map for that, so... you can see the gold lead a little bit closer now that JDG was able to answer a couple plays still. Got to believe that this dragon spawning in the next minute and funneling that into now bot outer and maybe more for ThunderTalk. That's going to be what's in the cards, and I don't think JDG have enough strength to defend that yet.
At least for now. And the gold deficit isn't too large that JDG are in a panic situation. There's been a lot of good things that ThunderTalk have done in the first 13 minutes of the game, but JDG found a decent response on the top side, picking up some kills when they could. And even though they didn't deny first brick away from TT. They're able to pick up a turret for
Hoya
themselves on the bottom side, and Hoya might be in trouble here, but just going to pop the ulti to get away. But this is the other turret that JDG might be able to pick up. Hoya steps back up, but I don't think Beichuan was really in position to protect that, and now Hoya is forced to flash.
Yeah, a lot burned for no reason here on the Scion. This Scion, again, being starved out as much as he was early. Going to be really squishy. Going to be a double black cleaver setup coming out here for JDG is shunned.
Ooh, I mean, SeTab throws down the Spiraling Despair, flashes the Heartbreaker, fears him as he was looking for the W, and Shun is getting completely outplayed here. Now he's down HP, but he dodges the Scourge. SeTab gets a couple more auto attacks. Holy camole, that was close, and Feather was there for backup, but SeTab wins the 1v1 over Shun.
I mean, the fear while the stun was charging from Shun, and the sidestep was beautiful from SeTab. Had a couple of nice sidesteps there. As Shun, he can't find the duel. SeTab wins out on that after taking the turret. That's going to ensure the Dragon goes over to ThunderTalk. There's no smite on the board, unless Missing takes it with the spell book. Instead, going to cast R, but that's a pinch.
Ram finds the knockup on the Beichuan, still doesn't have flash. The bullet time is going to rip through a couple members here. Missing flashes out at the right time, but still dies anyway. Death Charge was procced long before he flashed away. Peyz manages to flash and escape. And it looks like ThunderTalk is still going to try to secure this dragon. Woo, that was close. Neither team had junglers available for the smite secure, but ThunderTalk are able to walk away with the second dragon of the game.
That's big. Again, I think that this game needs to keep on going in ThunderTalk's direction, because as time goes on, not as good for them going up against JDG. The double cleaver setup really going to hurt that front line, and JDG will get too tanky in this game. We see a bit of it here. Oh, I thought we were going to get a replay of the fight. Instead, we're going to get a replay of the outplay. That's one stun miss there by Shun. SeTab connects with the R. Good flash to dodge out on the execute, and then here comes the fancy feat. The fear connecting there, really nice. Shun has a nice sidestep here, avoiding the QQ from the Hoya, but that's not enough. And when SeTab sidesteps the second stun, nice fancy feat there from SeTab to ensure that one won as well.
Meanwhile, in this play, unfortunately for Beichuan, still no flash, so he's easy pickings on the Zyra. But the rest of ThunderTalk are able to just break open the front line and force JDG back. They secure the dragon for themselves. And now we're at a point where Rift Herald is about to spawn in the next 15 seconds. No either neutral objectives are going to be up for a few minutes here, so it's really just top lane play. Hoya is trying to sneak through and see if he can get the jump on the Shun and Scout.
Yeah. I know the TT, they have to sack waves and try and make plays. I just think that they're sacking too much with Hoya. Like, if Hoya actually answered Scout on that top wave, they might have prevented the red buff from being taken. Meanwhile, JDG, they can't walk in here.
Missing. Might pay the price for that. Oh, and the E gets interrupted by the knockup from Zyra's ultimate. No Ornn available for this upcoming fight around the Rift Herald, and Scout is trying to walk and join up with the rest of JDG. Hoya is going to interrupt that for now as he used the ultimate, forcing Scout to take the Blast Cone over the wall, but he still has a Realm Warp available to join the fight if he needs to. ThunderTalk starting up the Rift Herald here.
Missing has TP on spawn, so they might look off that. Missing walking in there, that was a pretty big waste. Like, and they just saw TT have to
2,000, 1,800.
Sure about that. It's gonna be the fight after. Look at the angles that JDG has. Scout. Oh, he's gonna be focused.
Death Charge, and he's forced to flash away. Call the Forge Gods. Missing's back because he teleported right back into the fight. ThunderTalk, however, forced to retreat here. Good knockup from Missing. Finds SeTab. He's trying to keep himself alive with the shields. The bullet time is going to push them back. SeTab still not going to live as Scout Realm Warps in, looking for 1xN. Just needs a couple more rune play spells. And JDG, it's going to be enough. And oh boy, this is probably the most back and forth game we've had yet of the series, Matt.
Yeah, but that's a huge win for JDG. They're now up in gold. Yes, the Herald went over to ThunderTalk, but between the Jace advantage and how their comp scales, this game gets really hard for ThunderTalk from here. I think that's the fight that's going to end up breaking ThunderTalk in the end. The angles that JDG are able to create with the Rise, the TP that came in from Missing's Ornn after he decided to, give a gift over to ThunderTalk, and the stall that JDG was able to have on this Rift Herald to buy time to set this one up. I think this is the right answer from ThunderTalk to go after Scout, but Missing, he was here in time. Great call the Forge God to interrupt. And then everyone on ThunderTalk is flashless. No flash on Beichuan, just used it after it got up. SeTab had no flash here. And when the reset comes in with Viego, some of what we talked about, JDG, they're too tanky for the comp that ThunderTalk has. if you buy time, Viego gets the resets, and once Viego gets a reset, the fight's over. That's exactly what we saw this time around from JDG.
Yeah, and I think you called it out correctly with 1xN. I mean, this is a misfortune that got somewhat accelerated, but it just feels so hard to actually rip through this team once the bullet time is down, because that is where a lot of your power is on this AD carry. You're not necessarily the most high output damage AD carry in terms of just like auto attacks. Obviously, you pick other champions for that, and it's just super ult reliant. Now, ThunderTalk tried and use this Rift Herald to break open the map by crashing it into the mid tier 1. Not going to kill it just yet. They try to step up and see if they can use the Void Grubs to get the last ticks of damage to knock it out.
Yeah.
It's successful for them.
Just look at the formation still. They can't touch the Jace or the Ryze in the side lanes. And no one's moving this Ryze now. He has evolved Seraphs and nearly has... Roa is almost at 7 stacks here, as we do have a TP out. So even with the Grubs not going to JDG at all...
Whoa! I don't know how that Dredge Light did not connect, but Peyz is safe. And now the collapse from JDG. Oh, it's disaster for ThunderTalk Gaming. Look at Scout. He's on the flank. Right side throwing in rune spells and weaving them in as the rest of ThunderTalk are forced to retreat. And the resets as Scout is threatening for another dive, just throwing out the overcharge. Maybe ThunderTalk can try and buy a little bit more time to survive under the tower, but it's still massive wins for JDG.
I mean, frankly, like, the game's over. I think that picking up this Mountain Drake, and the fact that JDG did spawn a Mountain Drake, that's huge for them. If they are able to pick all these up, because again, their comp, it's going to get too tanky. You have Senna kills over the top. You have a Ryze, a pretty tanky solo laner. You have Tank Jace with the Grasp. And this Viego for Shun, he's going to have such an easy time getting resets into the comp of TT, who is really only Sion as the tank, and Sion is 3 levels behind because of how this early game went, and the choice is to really starve out the Sion. Again, I think that Sion, after the first dive bot, he has to TP top and lane. From there, you're signing up to a game where you cannot contest any sides because your top laner is too far behind. And we've seen the only play that TT has is just 5-man mid, walk and hope. That's not enough. Missing makes up for quite a few sins that we've seen from him in this series with a beautiful engage, flashing forward to make sure the Call to Forge God hits early. And ThunderTalk are going to continue to scramble. Otacon has been started. They're going to try and pull JDG to them.
I mean, they're trying to use the power of the Zyra to rip through this as fast as possible, and the rest of them
that's a great
pick. Hold the line. They're turning. Oh, massive 3-man knockup.
That's huge.
Spiraling Despair.
That's
it's
huge.
On, but the bullet time rips through the front line. Big stuff for ThunderTalk. No jungler to contest. No support either to find the engage, and the rest of JDG have to concede.
Great Otacon find and a great find onto Shun, and that's really what has to happen now in these fights for ThunderTalk. Take down the Viego, make sure that he's not able to reset. ThunderTalk with the 6 grubs going to continue to stick as a stack. Hoya will be fixing the mid lane. The rest of them, though, going to pressure bot as 4. Numbers not in favor for JDG, with both mid and support being stuck in the gray screen. Will lead to Otacon and an inner. So ThunderTalk, again, I think that this game's, like, I would give JDG at this point 80-90% chance to win, but a good play from ThunderTalk to at least get themselves back in it a little bit.
I think it just goes to show that ThunderTalk are going to be so reliant on securing the Baron if they actually want to come back in this game.
That securing the Viego. They have to kill Viego. If Viego gets a reset, they can't win the fight. So the fact they got Shun, like, that is target 1 at this point.
Well, time will tell if ThunderTalk can try and execute on the very slim win conditions that they have left for themselves, whereas JDG, they're looking pretty darn good, set up for securing match point for themselves in this best of 5. We're still a couple minutes and a half away from both Baron and the 4th dragon spawning on the map. And just taking inventory here, still no second item for Beichuan, whereas the majority of JDG have had 2 items for themselves, at least in the top side 3-man core for a while, and that's why it's been so difficult for ThunderTalk to really fight them.
Look on the angles.
It's not a good look for 1xN, nowhere to go, but the Otacon GA is the only thing that is a cost expended. Spiraling Despair thrown out, slows down the fight. Maybe they can bail out Feather and not have to use his Otacon GA, but the way that this is looking, Shun might just look for the reset, and SeTab is going to keep his distance.
And Hoya doesn't pressure any turrets by the bot side, so JDG just kind of nullifies a little bit of what's going on. Beichuan was at least able to take some resources away from Shun, so it's not all terrible. Of course, Otacon, you get diminishing returns when you get the kills. And today I learned no souls for Viego.
Yeah, I was surprised about that too. I kind of looked at it and puzzled, thinking, is there just not a possession for Viego to claim? And then, you know, put 2 and 2 together. But it just goes to show we haven't played enough Viego with Otacon. But ThunderTalk still trying to contest in the bottom side quadrant for this red buff.
Oh,
Good smite by Beichuan.
Nice.
Nets it away from Shun. Hoya throws out the ulti, but stops just short of knocking up Missing. Maybe didn't want to fully commit. The rest of ThunderTalk, it might have been wise for them not to do so, as they don't necessarily have to force this fight. We've got a minute before Baron and the 4th dragon spawning.
I mean, when I said that this team usually has Hoya play sack side, by the way, I did not mean to sack this hard, but TT, I mean, I will say most of the turrets have been removed now, where Hoya grouping up is not as punishable. Because like if you allow top to shove, the top can go all the way to you. It needs to be +2 or +3 until you have to respond to it, right? It's not like +1, you're losing that golden experience to the inner tower. So I actually think that all the inners pretty much being removed now kind of helps enable Hoya join his team, as we are going to see Hoya fix top. Dragon spawning in 15. We still think that this game only gets better for JDG, especially with the Mountain Soul spawning. They're going to get too tanky for ThunderTalk. But keep your eyes on Shun. He's the member that TT are looking to take down. If they can prevent Viego resets, that is the best case scenario. And I'm pretty interested as to why Shun is positioning so far up to actually so vulnerable to SeTab.
That's
a great engage.
Beichuan
That's a great
uses the
engage.
stasis to dodge
Wow.
the Forge God. They're split in the middle. Bullet time doesn't get that much because it was interrupted by Scout's Rise. Missing does fall, but it's a great trade. No 1xN misfortune for ThunderTalk to use, as now the resets pour in once again. JDG just steamrolling their way through another fight. And it's only at the cost of an orb, but I think JDG will take that trade any day.
I just look at the angles that JDG is able to create between the Jace approach, the Rise Realm Warp, the Call of the Forge God, and ThunderTalk is almost as frozen as we are here on the desk. They just don't know what to do, what the solution is with all this being thrown at them. They need to try and pick one side of the fight, but it's almost too hard to do against what JDG has. Especially when you're realm warping people like over a wall for terrain, so you can't even attack them. I think that's a really, really nice realm warp from Scout, and a really hard setup for ThunderTalk to deal with. So, well played by JDG. Managed to pick up back where they left off with this fight. And again, look at the approach. Like, you see 5. Look at how tough it is to deal with, especially with the Call of the Forge God. I mean, this is so good. You're finding both SeTab and 1xN, combining that with empowered shock blast, and then you get the flashes. They can only go one way, missing, canceling the bullet time with a little love tap, brittle, making sure that doesn't connect.
Oh man.
And yeah, there's just no answer for ThunderTalk.
Yeah, I didn't even see that it was missing that interrupted 1xN's bullet time channel. I just assumed it was Scouts. Anyway, well, it's not like this is the first time we've seen Missing caught out in this game.
No, our man is responsible for 8 out of the 11 deaths this game for JDG. I mean, this is like truly what it looks like when a support gets to farm, you know? It's like, oh my god, I have resources. We can go in.
And then they forget when they should or should not extend in a side lane.
Yeah, they're not getting solo lane XP, you know? Also, not used to this. They aren't used to the power.
Fair enough. Well, ThunderTalk taking grace in the fact that they can get at least a kill on someone somewhat reliably throughout the game. They are down 4,000 gold against JDG, but they were able to manage to pick up the 3rd dragon for themselves, so they're on Soul Point. I don't know if they're going to actually have map control to threaten for Soul Point when it comes up in the next 3.5 minutes, as JDG seemingly are going to take away a lot of structures in the next minute.
I'll be honest, too. I don't think that Soul even matters for TT. That's how tanky the JDG's comp is just going to get. And because they've been so much better at farming the side lanes.
I mean, Scout doesn't have Flash.
He's 17, though.
He's able to just run away with Phase Rush. I mean,
yeah.
It's just so hard to lock down this Rise.
Because of, I mean, TT's been overgrouping, right? So because JDG has been better at making sure they're just picking up side lane farm, that's starting to add up. The Jace and the Rise cannot be moved. It's been that way for a while, but with the Baron, we're really seeing that, and TT continue to just lose more and more resources on the map.
Peyz steps up, helps the Baron up minions, take down the inhibitor tower in the mid lane, walks away safely. The rest of ThunderTalk just trying to figure out where to expend their mans to defend these lanes from being pushed in. JDG Scout is still threatening the top side, has a Realm Warp and a Ghost in case things get a little too frisky for his liking, and ThunderTalk is trying to hold on. And, you know, for their sake, the Baron buff is going to run out in the next 16 seconds, so at least the empowered siege minions are not going to do as much damage to these structures, but I'm still in the same boat with you, Matt. It's still a very, very daunting look for ThunderTalk to try and recover from this game state.
Yeah, I mean, I think like one of the lessons that you can take home, I was helping out a college team this past week. Shout out to my alma mater, Miami, who are undefeated in their conference. But we talked a lot about just thematic counters, like thematically trying to beat comps. The Senna Ornn, I think thematically really fits in this draft for just what JDG had showing and what's good for ThunderTalk. And we have had a lot of drafts in Fruits where you just get games that end up looking one-sided, where you get really severe power curves with, you know, a team being much stronger earlier than later. We've seen that a lot in this series. We've seen this a lot in Fearless, and it's a good example of what you can do with being creative in draft. It's been a long time since we've seen the Senna Ornn, but again, I think this was a great read and a great game for it. And yes, we did see JDG get pushed around early, but they understood what the comp was and that they had to sack, and now that's a lot of damage coming out from Beichuan. Good catch on the Peyz. Woo!
That's big. The question is, does it actually matter, though, for ThunderTalk?
No. Yeah.
Because there's no objectives that they can capitalize and punish on. I mean, maybe they can push for a turret, but still they have to deal with Scout on the top side. Yeah. I think that's the best play that you can hope for. Now that you don't have to deal with the Senna, you can push your vision line further into the bottom quadrant and set up for a safer Dragon Soul contest.
It's not all bad, but that still is the way that we see ThunderTalk being able to win or come back in this game. It has to be mistakes from JDG. And good setup here from Beichuan. They saw Peyz dip in the vision. I mean, the guest is pretty lucky finding both, but still, it's not like JDG, you know, able to track them with the bit of vision they had on the minions, and Beichuan able to make something happen. But that's what is going to be required to happen for ThunderTalk to be, you know, able to contest JDG in this game. It's going to require mistakes from JDG and finding picks out of the only two members that you can pick at this point, and that's going to be Senna and Viego. And Viego looking all that much harder to find because the Sterix is really going to help make sure Shun is able to survive any potential damage that could come his way. But ThunderTalk, they do have vision, and if you're able to sit in this vision and control the Zyra, it can be a really good scenario.
Yeah, and this is where the Zyra can actually thrive. If you get to an objective first, hang on, 1xn, force to cleanse, it shouldn't force it out, but takes a lot of damage, almost losing 50% HP.
This might be a hot take. I think Feather should have flash Ard Shun there. Just try and force Viego out. You had Rise showing on bot wave. I think you had to make something happen now, because now it's going to be Jace peppering you and Senna protecting you as a comp.
Oh, this is such a good choke for the call. The Forge God Scout has led them all up a line so that they could get knocked up like that. The bullet time is going to rip through missing, but now they have to deal with Scout, who has Realm Warp to the bottom side of the flank. Beichuan throws on the ultimate, but Scout still has a stasis to buy time, and the Seraph Shield keeps him alive for the second part of the fight. SeTab is trying to throw all the spells that he can in his spell book, but it's not going to be enough. Shun finds his window, flash W's for the root, and down goes SeTab. Hoya, the last member standing for ThunderTalk, and JDG, their eyes are not on the dragon, their eyes are on the base.
And for all the grief I gave JDG last game with not being able to sync up, and, you know, nice to throw missing on this Ornn, where he's able to make plays, and the deaths are okay. I don't know if it's the best 1797 Ornn I've seen or the worst one, but regardless, I think that thematically, JDG had a great answer to what ThunderTalk was showing, and ThunderTalk just really over-indexed on trying to make plays. They know that they can't contest these two side lanes as time goes on in this draft, but really accelerated the Doom game state that we're now in with just overstaying Scion bot and overgrouping his 5, and just didn't see TT get enough. So that said, the lack of engage on the Shun earlier on really opened up for missing to find the angle like this, and for JDG to, again, find all the angles on the ThunderTalk. Like, look at this fight for Beichuan. It's so hard to decide, you know, how you play this one out when you have Call the Forge God going one way, you have Scout approaching from another, and his answer is actually not bad. Like, it actually helped get Rise in the end, right? Oh, I lied. Scout actually got out. Helped get one kill in the end. They were able to end up picking up the Jace, but yeah, really tough for ThunderTalk, and they're going to keep on trying here. This is the only solution they have. They have to group up as 5 and force. Get him out of the side lanes. Is missing.
Fear on a missing. Dredgeline connects, locks him down. Maybe it's enough damage. The
Scout?
knockup, not enough. Oh, Scout, Realm Ward behind them again! Holy moly, ThunderTalk just got dropped so fast! I blinked and suddenly ThunderTalk was gone! Scout's rise has been an absolute treat, and he is really showing up. ThunderTalk, oh man, JDG are able to just really destroy this composition back to back to back.
Yep.
And it's off the back of Scout just picking some of the most disgusting flanks I've seen on this rise.
Time ran out here for ThunderTalk, and JDG going to try and make time run out for ThunderTalk in this series, taking a 2-1 lead. Shout out to Scout's rise. We talked about this comp getting too tanky for ThunderTalk to deal with. Well, a Banshee, Seraph's fully stacked up, Roa Rise. He just TP'd into your backline and pretty much 1v5'd you. You couldn't do anything going golden. That full defensive build from the Rise, the damage still comes through. Level 16 was hit, and Scout ended up dinging all of ThunderTalk as he was the one to make a lightning strike on that backline. And 2-1 now secured for JDG. I will say, in their 2 wins, a little bit of a pattern here. The commitment to playing 3 lanes and having stronger solos were really instrumental in making sure that JDG made the 2 wins they had look as one-sided as they did.
Dude, Scout's rise made me lose my words, man. I'm just completely floored that he was ripping that much damage almost by himself. It was just crazy to see that he was solo realm warping by himself at that point into the backline, surrounded by all 4 people. And you would think that in other situations, this Rise is going to get punked. No, it was Scout doing the punking. I mean, ThunderTalk definitely got stomped and clapped. And I mean, you called it that you were definitely a bigger favorite of JDG's composition they drafted.
Skeptical of TT's draft. You know?
And
frankly, like, if you see an early MF, I think that's a great response into Misfortune. Like, taking just stuff that's way too tanky for MF to deal with. Because if you survive, like, there comes a certain point where MF just can't do the damage that you get from other ADs. So I think that the way that JDG abused that was really good. And I love the takeaway of the Ornn too, because not only is the Senna Ornn a really good thematic bot lane to go up against what ThunderTalk had, but you deny the Ornn from Hoya. It's been a big pick for him and ThunderTalk in the series too later on in this Fearless format. So really nice from JDG.
Yeah. Well, now what's left in the tank for both teams as we move on to game 4 and match point for JDG? I mean, the Rise was something that I almost kind of forgot Scout had in his arsenal. I've been so enamored with Doinby's Rise, and ever since he brought it back in this Fearless draft meta, and just thinking that, oh yeah, only Doinby is going to, you know, go back to the Rise. But Scout has played it. This isn't his first time playing the Rise and the LPL split so far, if memory serves correctly. So the fact that he was able to reliably go back to it and put on such a monster performance, what I'm so impressed with was just the way that JDG were pulling apart ThunderTalk and just the flanks that they were picking, you know?
That was impressive. I will say that when your top laner pretty much starts the game being up 2 to 3 levels than the enemy top laner, it makes it a lot easier to, like, find side lane priority and then collapse, which is something that they were doing really well. Also absorbing what happened in mid, because when ThunderTalk show 4 or 5 mid, it enables JDG to actually get push insides and then collapse. So props to at least Peyz for chilling out. I think missing was still too far up a little bit in this one.
Sure.
It's really telling coming into the series that everyone's KDA on JDG was higher than 5. Shun's was 4.5, and then Missing's was 2.9. Because he's definitely been throwing his life in. I don't want to always say for the cause, because sometimes it was and wasn't for the cause. There were some beautiful engages from Missing in that game, so I don't want to take that away. But still, we're seeing... I still am not seeing the Missing that I want to see in this LPL split. He still has a lot of room to grow compared to the form we've seen from him.
And we only say this because we've seen Missing play so much better, so much more consistently in the past.
And because I'm just a hater, you know. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, when you go back to 2023, the last year where LPL as a whole seemed to be the best region on top, and were in contention for a golden road for JDG, and then of course it was all taken away by T1 of the LCK. So it seemed like from that point on, that was like the golden height for JDG as a whole. And then obviously now we're seeing the aftermath of a roster rebuild where missing is the only remaining piece on this team. All the Shin, Scout, and Peyz, all new to the banner of JDG.
Looks like he's protesting the fact that he's the only remaining piece so far. Anyway,
yeah, he's sometimes he's dying for no reason, and other times he's dying for a cause. And at least this fight in particular was one where it started off with him getting picked off, and we all thought, oh man, well, okay, another freebie for ThunderTalk. But then he teleports back in, and he re-engages the fight with a well-timed Forge God ulti. And
yeah. His team did him a couple solids in that one, kind of forgiving the sins. This was also from missing. That was stealthy. Nice. We like plays like that from missing. And sometimes missing does come up big on the engages. So that's what we want to see more of. But still, I think that for JDG, like this comp for me, once they won that first Rift fight where missing did have the grief and then came back, after that, this game was in favor of JDG and still not as clean in terms of cleaning it up as it could have been. We still did see Shun and Peyz get picked at a couple different points in this game. So I think still a little bit of room to grow and room to prevent some error from JDG. And I say that only because we're not just focused on ThunderTalk here for JDG. If we win this best of 5, then we're 2 best of 5s away from going to that first stand tournament, which is the true goal for all the teams competing here. So I think if JDG wants to be considered as a favorite for that, still need to clean some parts of their gameplay up. But I did really like this draft and approach from JDG, and it did really, in the end, help them secure a win because we did see them get to the point of the game where it felt like no matter what ThunderTalk threw at them or no matter how many picks they could find, it just did not matter.
Yeah, and then when JDG are able to kind of, I don't want to say like force 5-on-5 team fights, but when they're forcing fights where it's down to mechanical outplays and individual star power, then this is where JDG is thriving, right? The fact that Scout was super far ahead, the fact that Olive was super far ahead, and they were dealing enough damage to threaten backliners, but also durable enough that they can't just be completely one-shot once they enter into a fight. I don't know how if JDG can replicate that again in Game 4 or if necessary Game 5, but for ThunderTalk, I think the conversation now becomes, okay, guys, remind yourselves of what happened in Game 2 and what went well, and try and remove the fact that you need JDG to mess up a couple times in order for you to get those advantages. As player of the game does go over to Scout. I mean, the flanks that he was finding was just so crazy. Like, they didn't even seem like, clean flanks, but he was such a big distraction for ThunderTalk.
They were
the
pretty
rest
clean
of JDG
flanks.
Yeah.
That was pretty deserved here for Scout. I thought Scout had an outstanding game. Pretty hard to argue against that one, as Scout created all the angles, got all the side lane pressure, and then some people forget how much damage Rise does when you get level 16, and you're able to,
What I
really
meant
pump
to
the
say
damage.
is that they weren't like, standard flanks.
They
They
were
were very
sneaky.
creative. They were
Yes.
sneaky and creative.
This one especially,
Yeah,
going
this
over
one
the
was
terrain,
sick.
this was so sick from Scout. Did end up having to flash in to execute 1xn. If he was able to hit the EQ over the wall and then flash afterwards, I think that's one way it could have been maxed more. Even this, like sneaking into the brush, Scout was just a menace this game. I really like the angles and the realm warps that he took, and even living through this one, I thought that he was going to go down. Not the case. Yeah, I mean, great game from Scout. He is old school Rise player for sure, and I think when Scout's able to play sides and funnel himself, that has always been a good scenario for Scout. Thinking back to his Yone, outstanding Silas and a Cubby player. The Azir, Scout's really good at, and the Rise as well. The way that he was able to get a lead on himself and then push that one forward. Very impressive this game from him and JDG.
Yeah, I think the solo laners for JDG are definitely showing up when they need to in this series so far. Peyz hasn't always had the opportunity to be in a position where he can clutch up, because I think that when the team is so far behind, there's not much an AD carry can do unless you're playing something like, a Jinx or a Zeri, right? But yeah, shout outs to All and Scout for putting in the work necessary, and now JDG finding themselves at match point here.
And hey, on the Jhin, he stepped up and got a quad, and now it's been a game of Jhin into a game of Senna. I feel like he's due for a hyper carry game where Peyz is. We know Peyz a little bit better for that, and of course in the Fearless format, can't take the supportive champs again. So we'll see if that opens things up. A potential Peyz angle as JDG looks to wrap things up here in 4.
Yep, things like Jinx, Kai'Sa still open for the picking. So we're going to find out as we take a break. When we come back, Game 4 draft will be on your screen.